Thinking about self-publishing and don't know where to start? Join the Spa Girls each week for 30 minutes of honest advice, tips and resources. I'm Trudy J and I'm here with Shah Barrett.
Hello.
Wendy Valor.
Hello.
And Cheryl Phipps.
Hi there.
Hello. They were just giving me SHIT in the comments earlier.
She swore online.
I did not. It doesn't count if I spell it out.
So swearing.
It's so not. Anyway, so this week we are talking about a topic that is kind of intriguing. We were kind of sitting here thinking of the opposite of what we're all told to do, which we have named uncommon advice for authors.
Ooh.
And basically we're contrary creatures.
We are contrary.
Yes. Some more so than others.
And I think to my idea, it's kind of showing that actually people come up, they talk about certain things and they say, this is the way you have to do it because this is the way I was successful and it's the only way. And what we want to show you here today in our podcast is actually there's multitude of ways to be successful, and people do it in all sorts of ways. And these are some of the examples of that we have found. Would that be a summary?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's so ways that people have been successful that kind of goes against the more common advice for authors.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to be wary. I think you got to be wary of being a follower constantly. You do have to make your own decisions sooner or later.
And not everything's going to work for you, right? Like things that work for someone else might not work for you. Okay. So do we want to just go dig right into the first of the...
Give it some, Trude. Get in there, girl.
All right. So we say, don't write what you know. Number one, which is the opposite of write what you know.
Oh my Lord.
I love this one because I don't know about you guys, but I was brought up from a baby writer in all these conferences, and it was always about write what you know. And I was reading this week a book by a chap called Austin Kleon, and it's called Steal Like an Artist. And by stealing, he's not referring to plagiarism or repackaging someone else's content, but being inspired by everything from art to media to nature to conversations and coffee shops kind of thing. And I loved what he said. He said, write what you know leads to terrible stories in which nothing happens, which is kind of like my life, which makes total sense. Like, you know, and basically it's like writing what you know is kind of like fan fiction, isn't it? It's what you're writing, what you know. So he's saying write the kind of story that you like best and also what you want to read. And I think that is something that we've heard, write what you want to read, but it's not necessarily write what you know.
I always hated that advice, write what you know. It always sounded incredibly boring.
Yes.
Like I want to be writing about dragons and adventures and swords and things like that. And I don't know about dragons and
I'm pretty
adventures
sure that
swords.
Cheryl hasn't witnessed many murders in her lifetime.
No, surprisingly.
Wow, you're boring.
Yeah, geez. Whereas Wendy clearly has lived in a small town and had many romances.
Living in a small Oregon town or in Regency, England, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. But having said that, I want to say that in the past we've said write what you know. But that, you know,
and you know, sometimes I thought of it in a different way, like not just having the experience of what you're writing about, but actually the feeling of it, because it's something that is familiar to you,
right.
or you know, evokes the right feeling that you can write something that's meaningful
and that's what we mean.
Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be literal. I mean, you think about is it Kay Kennedy who writes the firefighters that we've had on the show? And so she was writing about something she knew about, but she was taking it into a realm of what she didn't necessarily know about, which was the fiction aspect of it, I guess. But I just I think for our purposes, you don't always have to write what you know. In fact, maybe you don't want to write what you know, because it's what you know is maybe about how to do the dishes and watch TV.
I was just going to say that I don't want to write about hanging out, washing and stuff, and vacuuming. You know, like it's just not. It's just
looking after children, picking them up from school.
Unless when I'm making the bed, there's a really hot fireman in it. I mean, other than that,
you're sitting there doing your accounts, and I don't know, this amazing guy just rolls up.
Can you do my accounts for me?
Yes, the Ferrari that he wants to take you for a drive in.
He says, let's crunch some numbers, baby.
Let's crunch some. I like it.
Oh, funny. Yeah, so don't write what you know is our first piece of advice. And actually the second piece of advice I think comes from Austen again, doesn't it, from that same book. And yeah, so it's don't throw any of yourself away, which is kind of cool. So what does he mean by that, Shah?
So he means by this one, if you've got more than one passion, like don't just think that you can only focus on one thing. And I think for a lot of us, we're so focused on making writing work in whatever form that takes for you. Often that comes at the expense of other passions, like whether it's crafts or something creative or photography or art or I don't know,
exercise.
Yeah, well,
getting out of the house,
kind of part of the healthy lifestyle, but it's more of a passion thing. And like for me, the non-fiction photography side of life always wars with the fiction side. And what he's saying is you can have both, and sometimes you can kind of make them both work and they'll come together in some way. Now I'm thinking of people like bloggers that I followed over the years that have that have maybe been blogging like non-fiction stuff and then have gone on to become, you know, authors from that kind of thing. Like things can actually come together. And I guess what he's saying is don't
sacrifice what you love for the other thing you love.
And I think too, often trying to have like you want to bring kind of pleasure and enjoyment from both sides, not just from fiction as well, you know. And I think it's important for your creativity as well. If you've got other creative, particularly passions, I think it's important to keep up with those.
I think it makes your writing better. Actually, I don't even think that it's you can do both, even though you should be focusing on writing. I actually think that if you're solely doing writing and sitting inside your house and that's all you're doing all day, then you're not going to be as creative. You're not going to be able to actually do the things that you need to do, and that you should take time out. And we've talked about that for exercise, but it's for other things. You know, you need to switch off and do something completely different and move your body in a different way, and thereby that will make you a better writer. I think it's to do with your brain. It's to do with shutting your brain off and not actually have it constantly focused on.
I totally agree with that. I agree. I spend too much time on my computer and all the time, and it's just, and then when I don't and I walk away and come back, I'm really into it, you know, and it's just not something we do enough.
I think it gives you a perspective as well, doesn't it? It gives you a different perspective. And like if you go to an art gallery or you go to a great movie or you see somebody else's creativity being expressed, it's actually really inspiring, and it kind of takes you out of yourself a little bit too, from obsessing over that particular plot point or whatever, you know.
I think accepting too that there will be times in your career where you have to prioritize writing over everything else, but being aware that when that amount of time is done, that you then prioritize something else, you know, whatever that is. Sometimes your family has to take a back seat at certain times when you've got a deadline, or I don't know, you just have to do something. But then you have to put it away, you know, and not feel guilty. I think that's something that we do really badly to ourselves. We, you know, put all this pressure on ourselves, and then we don't acknowledge when the pressure's done. You know, we don't say, well, that's job well done. Now I can focus on something else, you know.
And because we're doing it's ourselves, it's all on us, right? Everything's on us. We do more. My husband will quite often say to me, do you know, you used to go to work for 8 hours and now you work 12 to 13. You know, like he's like, where's the sense in that? You know, and he's just like, you're always working, you know, and it's true. It's the truth. And it's not healthy.
And I think actually it's that thing of like giving yourself, it's kind of what she was talking about, giving yourself permission to do different things, because we do feel a lot like, I'm like, oh, every time I'm away from my desk, it's like, oh, I feel guilty, I should be at my desk. But often what comes into that is also procrastination. So I'll be off doing things that I shouldn't be doing in the time I should be writing. and then I feel guilty while I'm doing that, and then I'm behind on the writing, and then I should be doing the things I should have given myself permission to do. And you know what I mean? Like, so it's, if you say, okay, I'm going to write for 2 hours, and then I'm going to have 2 hours to do this other thing. If you do that, if you say that that's what you can do, and then you do it, then you kind of, you don't have to worry about the guilt, because you've done your writing, and then you've done, and then you don't have to feel guilty whilst you're doing this other thing, because it's part of your plan, if that makes sense. So
I think you have to be in the moment, don't you? You have to be in the moment of what you're doing, accept it, and go with it.
And give yourself time to do other things, other passions, I guess, which was the original point. So and don't be guilty, or don't feel guilty whilst you're doing them, because that's kind of.
And I think prioritizing too, you're like, okay, you know, I have to do this posting, or I have to do this, I have to do, but do you? You know, and that's another thing you really need to look at and go, is that really important that you're so tired and you're going to spend an hour doing it, or could it wait till tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I know there's a certain argument for kind of pushing yourself and working really hard for a certain period, but what I sometimes go is like, do I want this to be the rest of my life, where I'm working 12, 14-hour days, not seeing my family, stressed the whole time, you know, or do I want to have less writing time, but be more specific about what I'm doing in those work hours, like not faff around doing stuff that's not, I don't know whether it's going to make me money or whatever, and then have like stop at a decent hour and have that time with my family, have that time to do my passions, my other passions, have that time to give my brain a break and an away time, so that I can be completely refreshed and go back to it tomorrow, you know, and write the better stories.
Anyway. 100%.
Anyway, so that's kind of a bit more than just don't throw your art in your
away,
but it's
got a bit personal there, but hey,
it's all relative. So the next one we had is, don't let social media rule your life, or social media doesn't have to rule your life, actually.
As an author, we're talking
as an
about,
author. So this is in your
as
business.
anything. As anyone. But especially as an author.
But I think this year too has kind of seen the coming to the spotlight, or coming under the spotlight, has been very much TikTok for authors. And I think and we've obviously had, you know, talked to Anne Malcolm on our podcast, and other authors have mentioned it, that we've interviewed this year. And so it's easy to feel as an author, isn't it, that social media is something that it's a beast that you need to feed in order to be successful.
And is it?
Right.
I
think it is, but at the same time, I think if you're slow building, that's just as good as well. Like, I mean, having just started TikToks, people are saying you need to be posting 2 to 3 times a day, and and possibly that's right, but there's no way I can do that.
No.
Along with everything else, so I can't. End of story.
Think for me, the advice I would say, which resonates the best for me, and I've seen Zoe York on Twitter talk about this, and it's that you need I think it's important as an author for people to be able, for readers to be able to find you on social media. And by find you, I mean you have your pen name at the very least on a couple of the platforms, but you don't have to be on it, you know, 3 times a day posting. You know, if you don't want to be a content creator, inverted thingies, then you don't have to be. It's just have a presence, but you don't have to. Don't become a slave to it. I think we can fall into that trap pretty easily.
Because the thing is, if that's all bottling around in your head and like, oh, I've got to post this, I've got to do that, how on earth are you going to write well beforehand? Because you know what I mean? We all have lists of things we're going to do, but if every day there's another 2 hours at the end of your writing where you have to do your social media, or if there's, I think, and this is where sometimes with me, I think, okay, I need to do day about, and I need to schedule, and I need to be more organized, and I need to do, you know, and when I'm organized and when I've got it all done, I'm just a better person for writing and stuff like that. But I really don't, I think social media isn't, it's huge, but it shouldn't take over. It shouldn't be all encompassing.
You shouldn't do it at the expense of your writing.
That's what I mean.
It has to come first.
What she said.
And I mean, a lot of us enjoy it. I love social media, and that's good too. It's like it's a positive force as well, but it's if it's something that is like going back to the previous point about passions, if it's something that's you don't enjoy doing, then it's okay to have a presence, and no, you don't have to do 3 TikTok dances a day.
Never going to dance, just saying.
Not even one.
No dancing. There's no dancing on mine.
I don't do any. Hands up who's had a go at some of those. And it's just like, oh man.
What's that? There's one on, oh, don't let me down, and the legs go, and and I'm just like, could you imagine if I'd throw my hip out? It'd just be all bad.
Funny.
I like to think I could do it, and then
we'll do it. The 4 of us will do one.
Like,
I think if I was 20 years younger.
Shah was a ballerina.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sure
okay, so what? The next time the
the
Spa Girls get together, we're going to do a TikTok dance for you. Okay.
We
heard it now. It's not going to be till December next year, but we'll do it.
Clearly, this is not a democracy.
We could be democracy. The Rockettes on TikTok, and they do, they're amazing and fabulous. And I like to think of us like 4 of the Rockettes.
Yeah, you go with that, girl. You go, girl.
We understand that I don't dance, and I'm not very good at it. And
you can shuffle from side to side.
I like to dance, like no one's watching. No, like literally no one's watching.
We can do it Saturday night.
Okay, we've
moved on.
Okay, so the point for the social media was you don't necessarily have to post every day. I did a coaching session with someone, and I was panicking because I had all these things that I was trying to post, and I was trying to do Facebook Lives every week and all these things, and then I was trying to write, and it stresses me a little bit when I'm trying to write to the idea that I have all this other stuff to do after I'm writing. And she said, well, you don't have to do that every day, do you? Like, you can schedule things. And I was like, maybe. And so she kind of said,
we don't talk about that.
And she's like, well, can't you just like say that 3 days a week you're writing only days and you don't do anything else, and then you make the other 2 days marketing days, and you spend a couple of hours doing it on those 2. And I was like, maybe. And so I've been doing that for the last few weeks, and it's again that permission thing. I give myself permission to just write 3 days a week, and
that's what I need to do.
I don't have to stress about doing anything else. But then on the 2 days that are my marketing days, I have a big list of all the marketing things that I get through, and I just get through it, and it's fine. And I can schedule, and it just works. It doesn't, I mean, it's not always perfect, because we're clearly not perfect, but it just it's
some say we are.
But it's just been a way for me to kind of get rid of some of that guilt and schedule it out. And I know that I don't have to worry about it on a Wednesday, because I'm going to do it on a Thursday. And
basically, we're totally neurotic. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, clearly neurotic. No, but it's quite stressful in the back of your mind, knowing that you kind of got this thing.
It is. And I think everybody has to find their own path with that.
Yes.
Decide what's most important, and maybe not do all the platforms, just do 1 or 2, do them really, really well, and don't do them every day.
I mean, I think a crazy suggestion is don't have to do Facebook. What if you're just really, really good at video? Like, this is what like, what if you're awesome at video and TikTok is your platform, or Insta stories, like that.
Reels,
might be
you can do reels,
or YouTube, and that's where your presence is, like if that's what you,
I think find what works, right? And I really do think it's genre specific to some degree. I think, like, I've got 2 platforms on TikTok. I'm hopeless at both. I'll just say FYI. But what I'm saying about that is, one is a young contemporary, more audience. The other one is more historical. I think all the videos on there lean towards the contemporary when I'm looking through. And I haven't actually found a huge historical romance presence. It's there. Don't get me wrong, for all the people who are listening. You could totally
dress up in your historical romance outfits and like twirl around.
No. So anyway, what I'm saying is, I just think it's easier for the contemporary angle than it is of historical, but there are some historicals that are doing it really well.
But I would have thought it was the opposite, because there's more content like that you can talk about for the historical romance stuff.
Oh, for sure. But who wants to read
people that read historical on TikTok?
I don't know.
That's it. Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of bloggers on there and stuff like that, and and people doing reviews. But I haven't sort of struck it yet. And let's face it, I mean, I'm not on fire at all. I don't have 50 million followers and 25,000 people watching each clip. But it's what I think YouTube has given me is a bit of fun.
YouTube
Where-
or TikTok?
TikTok, sorry, so just go girl. You know, like, and where I'm going with that is sometimes you just need a little bit, something different, right? So Facebook is something I have to do and post and rah, 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 and I love it, I interact with people, but TikTok, you can just let yourself go and have some fun. And that's all it is for me at the moment. And I just
I don't
think
love
sometimes,
any of it.
oh, right.
Social
don't
media
love
or-
any of it. No. I like talking with people, you know, if you can get a conversation going, I like that. But I don't like having to think of content. It's just,
What
I
about
do
if you-
it.
So,
I do it.
so an idea for that, and this is just completely off the cuff, if you like talking to people, what about doing like trying to do a particular time of day where you do a Facebook Live and try and encourage people to come on, or do you know, or do a
Don't
Zoom
like
call?
it.
She doesn't want to do any social media.
Yeah, okay,
I
she's
Basically,
don't
She's-
want to put my face
she just
there.
basically
This is
wants
enough.
all the people to find her books and
Yeah.
buy them, end of story,
Absolutely.
without all that
Absolutely.
other extraneous stuff.
I didn't
right?
say I didn't do it.
No.
I said I don't like it.
And that's okay. You know,
And that's
that's
fine.
okay too. Like,
I just
Yeah.
think you can't, we just can't do it all, right? Like, so
No.
you have to, and you have to look at what works for your business. And and I just think what our advice is, you don't have to do it every day, and maybe thinking outside the square.
Yeah.
Like,
I think you've got to find some enjoyment in it too, because Cher doesn't like it. Then she needs to find something within it that she does like, because otherwise it
some way
becomes
to-
a chore.
yeah.
Well, I went really great guns on Twitter early in the piece when we were first podcasting and that, but I did find that it didn't lead to a lot of sales. And
More of a chat.
yeah, I mean, let's be honest, you're going to lose a little bit of interest, aren't you?
Yeah.
When that's the case.
Mm.
You don't want to spend hours and hours on something that doesn't reap you any rewards.
And you know, with Twitter, it is more of a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
it's
Twitter,
a chat room,
it's
isn't
kind
it?
of almost instantaneous chatting.
It is, yeah.
So if you could find a way that do something that is that part of it that appeals to you in Facebook or in something else, TikTok or whatever, that was more of a way to have conversations with people rather than it just being posting videos of your face or whatever. That would probably appeal to you, right? So there could be something we could sit down and brainstorm ideas around that.
I was telling you earlier about how I've just opened up a Goodreads reviewer group. And it's only been going a few days, but I quite like that because I'm actually finding a lot out about people and where they live. That really interests me. You know, people interest me. So
so it's that connection that you want, right?
So I'm going to give that a go, because I also think a lot of it's a generalization, I realize, but I think a lot of my readers for cozies aren't on Facebook. So that could be an issue right there.
Yeah. So you find where they are, figure out how to get in touch with them. Yeah.
And also I think because people are struggling to get reviews put on Amazon, that more people are heading towards Goodreads and BookBub, you know, because they're going to all the hard work of writing a review. They want it to go up somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Are we? Yes. We will come back to you, Cheryl, and find out how it goes. Okay, so our number 4 uncommon advice for authors is that you don't have to write every day. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
know.
one of the things
Oh, look at
I
us.
dislike, and I've heard a number of authors often, not often, I don't know what I even said the word often, not often, but I have heard a number of authors say, if you don't write every day, you're not a real writer. And really,
well, we thought that because people told us that.
Creative muscle.
I have to say, if I'm writing a book and I don't write every day, it takes me longer to get back into the story.
Yes.
And in my mind, this one could also be, you don't have to write every day, in that you can write in blocks. So you could write for a month, get your first draft of your book done, and then stop writing and doing your marketing for another few weeks. You know what I mean? Like that would be how it would work in my mind for that.
But
so
you can write.
You can write however you want.
That works for you and for your business. I think that's really.
But making yourself sit down to write and not wanting to write, I don't know that works. I mean, more often than not, I can write myself into wanting to write. But
I think
maybe if I said to myself, well, tomorrow, you know what, tomorrow you don't have to write. I like Saturdays I have off, and I'm just like, Friday night, I'm just like, It's nothing on to do tomorrow.
But
I
I
love
bet you
it.
on Friday you think, right, well, I'm not writing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I have to get the words down
Yeah.
today, right?
But Saturdays, I love it.
Yeah.
So what does that say? Should take another day and then just cram it into all the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
There
could
is
too.
that. There is that.
And give your poor old brain a break.
So neck, shoulders, back, everything.
But we talk to authors of that have so many ways of working, haven't we? Like you say, Treadle, so that 1 month of writing, 1 month of marketing has been, there's been 2 months of writing, 2 months of marketing, or 1 book a year, and then the rest of the year is kind of spent marketing that book and previous books in the series. And again, some people just are best with working. I think Marie Force famously is 7 days a week, because that fuels her. It doesn't necessarily.
I think Nora Roberts is the same, isn't she?
Yeah, I'm pretty
She's
sure
another
Nora
one.
Roberts is the same. So it's just, and it's also what age and stage your life is in as well. I remember reading Stephen King's, I think, autobiography. Didn't he talk about writing every day and doing?
I think it's how fast you write.
And I sort of smile wryly, because they're usually not the people that are doing the caregiving of either the children or the elderly parents or the rest of the family. To be just have anyway. Let's just get down the track. But
no, let's not. But you get 8 hours a day, right? You get 8 hours a day.
Really productive and not be writing every day.
Exactly.
Still get out loads of books, or you can still write awesome, amazing books and not write every day.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be this. And I think part of that whole myth around writing every day is and when I think of Nora Roberts, for example, there's this kind of myth around her that she's so compelled to write that to not write every day would somehow destroy her soul or something, and there's that kind of writer's myth. Do you think? Do you agree with me on that?
I think in her case it's certainly genuine, because I remember just going to a couple of her talks, and she literally takes her laptop away on holidays and
oh no, I'm not saying it's a myth that she writes every day. I just mean that there's this myth built up around it that says if you don't write every day, somehow you're not as passionate about it, or somehow you're not in the same
you won't achieve
or that you're not status. There's that whole artist myth of I have to write because I can't not write, that kind of thing that you hear people say sometimes. And I think there's that idea around it that you have to write every day because it's part of that myth around and also
to be honest, when I finished my job, I still have a job, but when I left my paid employment for someone else and went to work on my own, I had this mental thing that I used to go to work for 8 hours a day, so what I should be working for 8 hours a day. And that was always a real mental thing for me. It's like, okay, I left a job to do another job, so the job needs to be done. So it's
but you're not working 8 hours a day, you're working 13 hours a day. So actually, if you're working 8 hours a day,
there is a lot of truth though in the fact that you have gone from one line of work to another, and therefore you need to put the same amount of effort in. I do believe that. I really, really do. But it doesn't have to be at a desk writing for 8 hours. Because in your other job you probably got up and had to go and visit someone, or bathroom breaks, or
water cooler, hang out at the water cooler and chat,
or do another task.
It's not, there's more to the business of being an author, a self-published author, than just sitting at the desk and writing. I mean, there are
absolutely
other things
that's
that you need to be doing.
Quite a large part, but
it's not the only part of it,
No, exactly.
So it's interesting.
But I think it's one of those things, a little bit like when we're talking on our previous episode about process, the regularity that you write is also something that you probably come to naturally and evolve with, and also as your life changes, like I said, and what works for you as well. Because we also have heard from many authors that find it easier to stay within the story, so it is easier to write every day, and get that book out, or get that first draft out as well.
But it could be just an hour a day. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe your thing is
a solid hour
a day.
Well, Wendy and I used to go and write in coffee shops, and knowing that by the time we had done, we'd be there for like 2, maybe 3 hours. By the time we were done, our words were done for the day. And that adds up.
Exactly right.
That adds up quite quickly.
And it's also another thing is another thing is, I always used to write between 3,000 and 5,000 words a day. And now I've adjusted that. And it's like, okay, if I get 3,000 words a day done, I'm pretty happy with that. And there's no pushing on for more. And so I think,
unless you're in the zone.
But taking that pressure off as well, it's like, stop looking at the word count, stop looking at this, just know that you need, So I think, as I've got older and had written more, I think I've realized that you just can't keep pushing that hard.
It's
you
a
want to
head
be in
game
this
and
for
a
the long
physical
game.
Absolutely. My neck and shoulders are pretty sore most of the time, and that's not a good thing.
No, we don't want you writing yourself into burnout for
and you see it around. It's not just burnout like emotionally, there's also physical burnout. Your body just can't, you see all these authors with these kind of chronic conditions, and it comes from sitting down all day at the desk and not kind of moving and getting up and having another life. So
and that's important to have that well-rounded, balanced life, a little bit of everything.
Actually, I just started wearing a shoulder brace and that makes a huge difference. Just it forces your shoulders back.
Is that a straight jacket, Wendy, or is
it's a bit like that? It's a bit like that.
Are you standing up, Wendy, currently?
On and off, I am at the moment. Can you tell by the way I'm wriggling? But the shoulder brace is great because it just holds my shoulders back, and basically I'm writing in the correct position so that when I take it off at the end of the day, I don't have any pain. It's great.
That's good.
Yeah, really good.
There you go. It's also about managing things, isn't it? Solutions.
Solutions.
Nice.
Now you're making me roll my shoulders because
I see that. So it's a long game, is where we're coming from, and it's an adjustment, and it's like working out what works for you. It's all those things. Have you got the right chair? Have you got the right desk? Are you standing? That sort of stuff. It's getting all that,
and you don't have to write every day.
No.
Give you permission.
All right. So that was number 4. So the last one is number 5.
Yeah.
And we're moseying back to another suggestion, which is from, what's his name? Austin
Kleon. Yeah.
Austin Kleon. We called it Marie Kondoing your life.
Yes.
But he calls it creativity is subtraction. And this is all about decluttering, and I've been doing a big year of decluttering, and I can vouch for the fact that it's so much easier to do things when you are not all cluttered up and trying
mentally
to do everything mentally, but also this is a non-writing example, but it illustrates what we're talking about. So our medicine cabinet, right, was a disaster.
Brilliant.
We had just everything. I don't like throwing away medicine because it might be useful one day. And we went through it recently. So I had a moment where I was like, we needed something, and it was like antiseptic cream or something for a scratch on Zoe, I think, that, and I couldn't find it, and I was searching through these piles and piles of things, and I knew it was there somewhere, and in the end I gave up because I couldn't find this stupid cream, and then so
and then your daughter,
and it's like,
go somewhere and find someone who cares about you.
You just do whatever.
Find someone who cares about you.
Exactly. Find someone else to sort your problems out, child. No, and but it was, but literally there was so much stuff in there that I couldn't find what I needed. I couldn't get the medicine that was required at the time that I needed it. And I had other examples. One time I needed the thermometer and I couldn't find it, and there was like 4 of them in there, and I could find one that didn't go and another that was broken, but I couldn't find the one that worked. And
I bet you put the broken one back in the box.
Yeah, probably put it back, and it's in the no. But then Zoe and I cleaned out the medicine cabinet, and we went through, and she's, for a 10-year-old, she's pretty mean about making me do stuff that I don't want to do, like throw out the medicine that was expired in 2015, that kind of stuff. And so we threw out all the stuff that was out of date, all the stuff we didn't need, the broken thermometer, the things that were half rotted, Did
you find the antiseptic cream?
Yes, I did, and I know where it is now. We put things in containers so that the stuff that's for colds is in one container, the stuff for injuries is in another.
How much stuff do you need for colds so that it has its own container, just quietly?
Well, I get a lot of colds, so I'm a little bit soft, and
I bet not lately.
No, not lately. I haven't had a cold in a couple of years.
There you go. That medicine needs to go out.
Yeah, no, just in case.
But so what you're saying is you feel great.
My point, sorry, I lost.
Please get to the
point. That we're
point,
actually
yeah.
on the podcast. I was just taking a pause to look out the window, and and my point was that we went to look for something the other day, and I immediately knew where it was. I went straight to it and got it out. Do you know what I mean?
Then.
And that's the difference. And so in our author careers, you can either have so much crap everywhere that you don't know where anything is, and you don't really know what's working and what's not working and what you're doing, and you're overwhelmed and you're flustered and you can't find anything, and then you don't actually get anywhere. Or you can have it all decluttered. You do 3 or 4 really specific things. You do those things really, really well, and you monitor them and you know that they're working.
Yep.
And which sounds better? The messy medicine cabinet with crap in it that you can't find the things that you need when you need them, or the medicine cabinet where you find exactly what you need and it's doing what its job.
Or a tiny desktop.
I don't know. Is that a trick question?
Desktop and files for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's more than that too. It's about possibilities as well. And I think we're just overwhelmed with options for publishing and for covers and for marketing, social media, and for advertising and social media and all the rest of it. And if you think of that as Trudy's medicine cabinet and just pare down what you don't need or what doesn't work for you, it might work for somebody else. It doesn't make it wrong, but just pare it down. And I think that's what Cleon was saying about that creativity is subtraction. And I think it's so true because, you know, we're creators, we're often collectors. We're collectors of thoughts, we're collectors of ideas, we're collectors of snippets of conversation. We're also collectors of craft books and, you know,
some of us are.
Courses that we haven't yet to do.
Some of us are, some of us aren't. I just want to say it again. Yeah.
And
Cheryl and I aren't.
Subtraction is really important, but you will have things like Trudy and I are probably the research overwhelmed, but maybe you guys will have things that you too could subtract that that aren't serving you.
Children, husband. do you mean that sort of stuff, or
probably not children or husbands? But there's actually also part of that, the subtraction thing. Is it what held me back for a long time was an inability to make decisions on something we're aware, or at least I'm aware with our podcast, that we have all these different guests on who are talking about all these different things, and every time we get something on, we kind of are saying this is something cool and this is something you should potentially do. But what we are saying is look at each of these things and make a decision about it, and
for yourself,
and also don't dither about and not make any decision at all because you can't decide, because you don't know what the right way is. Just make a decision one way or other, you know, like you decide, yes, you're going to get one of the platforms that we've had on the show recently, and that's awesome, but you can try it out, but don't keep doing it if it doesn't work. Don't feel bad if
to let go. I think
you can make the decision to do it and then let it go if it needs to let go. You don't have to there's a sunk cost fallacy, which we've talked about. You know, you don't feel like you've been doing it so long that you have to keep doing it, but also just make the decision. Don't let the decision dither about in your head, wasting space. Make the decision, yes or no.
A good question is this for me now? You know,
that's a good way.
Can I give the time to it now?
Or am I just doing it because people tell me I should do it?
As Wendy said. So
Wendy said I have to go do
I don't say I offer advice
because Wendy said, and she's quite bossy.
Shah
says is more the key. And Trudy,
if you want some help with this is a non-paid advertisement, but Sarah Cannon's Heart Breathing's HB90 course is really good on this, and she takes you through a process, and it's basically planning your next in 90-day blocks, so 3 in quarters for the year, and you kind of write down everything you want to do, and then you actually look at how much time you've got available, and you realize that giant list there, it just can't be done in that time, and it's a way of subtracting what you can't do, not throwing it away so you have it for future projects kind of thing, but it's a very, very liberating process to go through. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you're facing a new year of writing and you want to do all the things, I highly recommend that.
Well, isn't there a saying you can't do all of the things all of the time, only some of the things some of the time? Is that a saying?
Maybe.
I
That
think
sounds
that's
like it
keeping
came off
people
your
happy.
tongue.
You can't
but I'm
make
not
somebody
sure.
happy.
No, but I adapted that for this.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
It seems to work.
Yeah, cool.
And I think
Okay.
it's like you can't do everything. Like you literally have to make a decision about what you want to do and what you and maybe this is all about finding your why and going back to all that kind of stuff. Like what do you actually want to achieve with your life? Like, are you someone that wants to go out there and experience lots of things? Then you should be traveling the world.
And
Maybe not
another,
right now,
I think,
but if you want to make lots of money, don't publish the off genre book about that's a mix between non-fiction and fiction.
Yeah,
and it's sort of a family
yeah.
memoir with poetry. Publish that by all means if you want to publish it, but don't expect to make lots of money from it. And if your goal is to make lots of money from your writing, then that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just know where you're going and know what your goal is.
And immediate goals too. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be a long-term one, but we come into Christmas and you've probably got a list 15 pages long to achieve before you take a break at Christmas. So look at that list and go, okay, what on that list can I achieve and can I get done before Christmas? You know,
and what is okay to leave till the new year, because
exactly,
stressing yourself out over stuff that doesn't actually need to be done.
Exactly.
Subtract for stress relief.
Yeah.
I just want to read out the quote that we had from his book. What's his name? Austin Kleon. Sorry, I just have a mental blank around his name. So, in this age of information abundance and overload, those who get ahead will be the folks who figure out what to leave out so that they can concentrate on what's really important to them. Nothing is more paralyzing than the idea of limitless possibilities.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. And you think about it in terms of how we talk about call to actions and how you should only have one because having 10 makes people unable to make a decision. And that's a psychological thing. That's not just they're being annoying by not making a decision. It's like people, if you give them too many choices, they can't make a decision. So do the same to yourself.
Impose some limitations on yourself, which is kind of, again, it's uncommon advice, but when you actually think about it, and it's so true.
Yeah.
And
very
it's
cool.
liberating.
All right.
Limitations are liberating. How's that? We can maybe talk about that one.
They are. It's amazing how I could talk for hours about this whole decluttering thing, because I've decluttered so many areas of our house, and it's so much easier to live in a house with less stuff in it. And it's the same for our writing. Like, it's so much easier to have a career with less stuff in it. So
much. So
awesome.
true.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I think that might be another episode of the Spa Girls podcast done and dusted.
So.
Thank you all for listening. And where can we be found quickly, Shah?
So I'm going to give you one option here, which is to go along to our website at spagirlspodcast.com. Make sure you signed up to our newsletter, and we will send you all the good stuff every week, targeted just for you.
Yes,
Awesome.
indeed.
Targeted like a arrow.
Targeted like a laser.
Laser. That's it. I knew there was some kind of a saying around
Arrow did it though.
Arrow
it's okay as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. But thank you all for listening to another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. We appreciate you for being here with us, listening to our waffle for another week. And we'll be back again next week.
See you next time.
Bye.